Imagine dropping your daughter off at school like you do every morning. Same routine, same friendly nods from other parents, and suddenly a teacher publicly corrects you, not just as a mom, but as a royal. Now imagine your Princess Catherine standing at the classroom door when your daughter's teacher points out her shirt isn't tucked in and says, "I hope you're not becoming lazy." Then she turns to Catherine and adds, "Perhaps you could ensure her uniform is correct before leaving home." Let that sink in. Those words, said directly to the Princess of Wales, with Charlotte standing right there. But here's the kicker. Catherine didn't lose her cool. She didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "Thank you for your feedback. I'll keep that in mind." It was a moment of quiet strength, and everyone watching knew something had just happened. But to really understand why this moment went viral and why Catherine's reply left such an impact, we need to rewind to that exact morning, before the school gates, before the tension, and before that icy comment from Miss Hall, because this story actually started way earlier. That Thursday morning started just like any other. Princess Catherine was up early, well before the rest of the palace stirred. She quietly made her way to the kitchen and prepared her usual morning tea, savoring a few calm moments before the rush of the day began. The halls of Kensington were still quiet, with soft morning light just starting to peek through the windows. By 6 o'clock a.m., she was already dressed. Her hair was neatly styled, falling softly over her shoulders. She liked to be ready before waking the children. It gave her time to stay focused and calm. That morning's schedule was packed. School drop-off, a meeting with her early years development team, and later, a call with the National Portrait Gallery. But first, it was all about getting George, Charlotte, and Louis ready for their day. By 7:15, the house was in full swing. Catherine moved between bedrooms, checking George's bag, wiping a tiny smudge off Louis's jumper, and flipping through Charlotte's reading log. She made sure everyone's shoes were clean, uniforms pressed, and that no lunchbox was left behind. Even small things, like Charlotte's blue ribbon matching her uniform, were part of her careful routine. Charlotte, usually full of chatter, was quieter that morning. As she pulled on her navy jumper and tied her shoelaces, she glanced up and asked softly, "Do you think Miss Hall will like my reading today?" Catherine paused and smiled, kneeling beside her. "Of course she will, darling. You've practiced so well. Just read with confidence, and you'll be wonderful." Charlotte nodded, reassured. By 7:30, they were out the door. Catherine drove them herself, with the security team following behind. In the back seat, Charlotte quietly practiced her spelling words. Louis hummed a tune, and George flipped through a book. It was one of those perfectly normal family mornings, the kind Catherine always tried to protect. They arrived at Thomas's Battery just before 8. The air was cold, but bright. Catherine parked near the gate, took Charlotte's school bag, and held her hand as they walked in. Parents were arriving with their children, chatting, waving, greeting each other. Catherine smiled and nodded at a few familiar faces. She wanted her children's school runs to feel as ordinary as possible. However, inside the classroom, the tone shifted. Miss Hall stood near the whiteboard arranging flashcards. She was in her late 30s with dark-rimmed glasses and a serious expression. As Catherine and Charlotte stepped in, Miss Hall turned slowly. "Morning, Princess Charlotte. Morning, Your Royal Highness," she said, barely looking up. Charlotte placed her bag in her cubby and stood beside her mother. Then came the comment. Miss Hall looked Charlotte over and said, "Your shirt isn't tucked in properly today. I hope you're not becoming lazy." The room fell quiet. A few other parents were still around, close enough to hear. Charlotte froze. And then, turning toward Catherine, Miss Hall added, "Perhaps you could ensure her uniform is correct before leaving home." The tone wasn't helpful. For a moment, there was silence. Catherine knelt down and gently fixed Charlotte's shirt, whispering, "It's all right, love. Stand tall." She gave her daughter a reassuring smile. But it was clear the comment had been made to be heard, and not just by Charlotte. And then, as if the moment hadn't already left everyone uncomfortable, Miss Hall added one more line. Some parents are too busy thinking about their public image and forget the basics, like teaching their children how to dress properly. It was a direct dig. No one said a word. Catherine took a breath. Then she stood up, her posture calm and collected. "Thank you for your feedback," she said in a steady voice. "I'll keep that in mind." She kissed Charlotte on the forehead, told her to have a good day, and left the classroom. But inside, Catherine was shaken, not by the criticism, but by the way it had been delivered in front of children and parents with no care for Charlotte's feelings. She walked back to the car and paused before getting in. Sitting behind the wheel for a moment, she closed her eyes and let the cold morning air hit her skin through the window. Then she picked up her phone and called her secretary to confirm her schedule. Catherine wouldn't explode. She wouldn't make a scene, but she also knew this wasn't over. Something had to be done. Back at Kensington Palace, Catherine returned to her schedule like she always did. But no matter how many calls she took or meetings she led, her mind kept drifting back to what had happened at the school. She couldn't shake the tone of Miss Hall's voice, or how Charlotte had looked down at her shoes after the comment. Catherine wasn't angry in the dramatic sense, but she was concerned, deeply. By mid-morning, she was in her office reviewing documents for the upcoming early years conference. A few aides had gathered around the long table, discussing logistics and community visits. Catherine contributed thoughtfully, as always, making notes and suggesting ways to improve outreach programs for children's mental health. Then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Charlotte's teaching assistant, Mrs. Peters. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness. Just letting you know Charlotte is doing fine today," she read aloud in class confidently. "Regards, Mrs. Peters." Catherine read the message twice. A soft smile crossed her face. Charlotte was okay. She hadn't let the morning incident shake her, at least not outwardly. That message brought some relief. But still, Catherine knew this wasn't just about her daughter. It was about every child in that classroom. If Miss Hall spoke to Charlotte that way, with parents present, how did she speak when no one was around? It wasn't about punishment. It was about ensuring kindness, respect, and professionalism, something every child, regardless of title or background, deserved. That's when Catherine decided to take the next step. She picked up her phone and called the school directly. The receptionist connected her to the headmaster, Mr. Jonathan, a man she had met before during school events. Her tone on the call was clear, but never emotional. She explained what had happened during drop-off, detailing Ms. Hall's comments and expressing her concern not only about the public nature of it, but how it may have affected Charlotte emotionally. Mr. Jonathan listened quietly, taking in every word. He didn't interrupt. Once Catherine finished, he responded respectfully and with sincerity. "I'm very sorry, Your Royal Highness. That should not have happened. I will speak to Miss Hall personally. You have my word?" Catherine thanked him, ending the call knowing she had done what was right, not just as a mother, but as someone who understood how deeply words can shape a child's confidence. But even with that reassurance, what happened next shocked her. Just 2 days later, Catherine was back at Thomas's Battery for the afternoon pickup. She walked calmly toward the gate where parents were gathering. Charlotte came skipping out with her reading folder, but before they could leave, Miss Hall appeared again. Without a smile, without a greeting, Miss Hall looked directly at Catherine and said in a clipped tone, "You might want to work more on Charlotte's class attitude. She seems distracted." It wasn't just a passing remark. It was very intentional. Catherine froze for a second, surprised that Miss Hall had said it again, but she didn't falter. With Charlotte standing beside her, she looked Miss Hall straight in the eyes and responded, not with raised eyebrows or a sarcastic reply, but with words that held weight. "Excuse me, you don't talk to kids that way. If you're going through something, speak to someone. Don't take it out on them." The tone was still calm, but you could feel the shift in the air. A few parents nearby had overheard. One mother stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable with what she'd just witnessed, and said directly to Miss Hall, "I think you owe her an apology." Miss Hall didn't say a word. She walked away down the hallway. One of the nearby teachers saw the exchange and quietly went to alert the headmaster. Catherine didn't speak further. She simply turned to Charlotte and said, "Let's go home." The moment may have lasted only a few minutes, but by the time they reached the car, it was already spreading. Texts were going around. The parents who'd seen it were talking. The story of Catherine's respectful reply was already making waves. But behind Miss Hall's behavior, there was something else going on, something no one had expected, and it was about to come out.
We both want to wish the Lionesses the best of luck for tonight. You've done amazingly well in the competition and we're rooting for you all the way.
Good luck, I hope you win. Bye.
The truth didn't take long to surface. After that second incident at school, headmaster Mr. Jonathan decided it was time for a real conversation with Miss Hall. What he didn't expect was her breaking down right in his office. Turns out, Miss Hall had been under an enormous amount of pressure, problems at home, mounting emotional stress, and clearly not enough support. She wasn't just lashing out randomly, she was overwhelmed and trying to hold it together. Mr. Jonathan immediately arranged some time off for her, but he also knew he had to reach out to Catherine. He called her, ready to explain everything. Now, here's the part that really shows who Catherine is. Her first question wasn't bitter or angry. It wasn't about defending herself or even her daughter. She simply asked, "Is she okay? Does she need help?" That was it. It was a genuine gesture. Because Catherine knew this wasn't about revenge, it was about healing. That's when this story shifted from a schoolyard headline to something way deeper. A story about understanding, kindness, and second chances. A few weeks later, Miss Hall returned to school, not just with a new attitude, but with real sincerity. Her first move? Apologizing directly to both Charlotte and Catherine. Not just the formal sorry, but a heartfelt, honest moment. She admitted she'd been struggling and that her behavior had been completely out of line. And Catherine, she didn't just accept the apology, she took it one step further. She gave Miss Hall her contact info, just in case she ever needed anything or someone to talk to. It wasn't just forgiveness, it was a bridge. Then she personally followed through by connecting Miss Hall with one of her mental health partners. The goal wasn't just to move on, it was to make sure Miss Hall got the support she clearly needed. But what really brought this full circle wasn't a grown-up conversation, it was a quiet gesture from Charlotte herself. One morning, Charlotte showed up to school with a small box wrapped in a ribbon, homemade chocolate muffins, baked with her mom's help the night before. But the real gift was taped to the lid, a handwritten note. It wasn't long or dramatic, just a simple, sweet message. "Dear Miss Hall, thank you for saying sorry. I hope you're feeling better. These muffins are my favorite, and I wanted to share them with you." When Miss Hall opened the box and read the note, she couldn't hold back the tears. She crouched down, hugged Charlotte, and whispered, "You're a truly kind child." It wasn't just forgiveness, it was compassion from someone so young. A reminder that kids watch everything, and sometimes they teach us how to be better humans. Catherine watched from a distance, quietly. As she walked back to her car that morning, she didn't need to say a word. Her smile said it all. This wasn't just about standing up, it was about showing up with heart. What would you have done if you were Catherine? Do you think she handled it the right way? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and don't forget to subscribe for more moments like this.